The Houston Rockets last year looked much improved compared to the previous few seasons, as after a few years of tanking, they nearly made the play-in tournament. And this year, a lot of people expected them to finally make the play-in tournament and potentially the playoffs. However, the Rockets have been a lot better than anyone could have expected, because as it stands right now, they are a top 3 seed in the Western Conference. So in today's video, let's discuss why the Rockets have been so good so far this season, and answer the question on if they are a legit threat to win it all. Now before we do get started, of course, go ahead and hit that like button if you guys end up enjoying the video, since it does really help out the channel, and of course subscribe if you guys are new and you guys enjoy content like this. That way you don't miss out on any new videos like the one you're watching right now. But without further ado, let's go ahead and let's get this video started. Now for starters, Houston is one of the best defensive teams in the league. As I record this video, they are top 3 in defensive net rating and opponent points per game, and to go along with it, they have the 6th lowest opponent 3-point percentage and the 2nd lowest opponent field goal percentage. Now this can largely be attributed to the fact that they have a very good combo of defensive personnel and coaching. Ime Udoka, he's obviously a very good head coach and has a very good defensive mind, and he makes defense a big point of emphasis. However, the Rockets also do have a lot of good defenders on this team. I mean, Fred VanVleet, he's a very good defender. Dylan Brooks is a great defender. Jabari Smith is really good on that side of the ball. Tari Eason and Amen Thompson off the bench are great defensively. And Alperen Sengun this season, he has improved a lot on defense to the point where he's actually a good defender. And Alperen Sengun, last year he was obviously good for the Rockets, but the big complaint with him is that he just wasn't very good defensively, and sometimes the Rockets would bench him in crunch time and in important situations because of his defensive, deficiencies at the time. But this year, he's actually, again, he's been a very good defender. And their defense, in my opinion, it pretty easily is the main reason why they've been winning so many games this year. And heck, their defense last season was a big reason why they're winning, why they improved, so much last year. So yeah, the Rockets defense, it's amazing. Now speaking a little bit more about their individual players, Alperen Sengun, to me, is the best player on this team. I think he's a legit all-star level guy, and I think he's one of the best young players in the league. Offensively, he has had a little bit of a down season, especially when it comes to shooting the ball, but I do trust him to eventually get his percentages up, and even then, he's still a decent scorer. He's one of the best passing bigs in the league, and overall is just a very good passer and playmaker. He can grab rebounds well, and as I mentioned before, he has improved a lot defender, going from a bad defender to a pretty good one. And I have seen some people call him like baby Nikola Jokic, and I don't think he's ever going to reach the heights of Nikola Jokic, which really isn't a bad thing when you consider just how good Nikola Jokic is. But I do think that Alperen Sengun can be an all-NBA level player, and I mean, overall, I just really like him, and I think he's a great player. Along with that, Amen Thompson and Tari Eason, like I said before, although they are coming off the bench, both of these guys have been very good for them, especially on the defensive side of the ball, like I talked about before. Amen Thompson had an okay rookie year, but this season he's improved a lot, especially with more opportunity, as he's averaging 12 points per game and 2 assists per game, to go along with 7 rebounds per game, while shooting 55% from the field, and again, is a terrific defender. And I think he's a Swiss Army knife of a player, as heading into the NBA, he was viewed as like a big point guard, but truthfully, his athleticism and skill set and size, they make him a versatile player who can play the 1 through the 3, and maybe the 4 in some very small lineups. And although he's not a starter yet, I think it's only a matter of time before he does become a starter on this team, whether that be like in the middle of this season or, probably next season. I'd say around that time he'll become a starter. But the biggest knock on Amen Thompson is definitely his lack of a 3-point shot, which is fair, and that was his biggest concern heading into the draft. And he has improved a bit as a 3-point shooter, you could say, as he's gone from, 14% on 1 attempt per game to like 29%, which 29% is still very bad, but I mean, it's an improvement, I guess. Now, I doubt he'll ever be like a great lights out knockdown shooter from 3, but if he can just become like an average 3-point shooter, that would be amazing for this team. But regardless, Amen Thompson has been great for the Rockets. Tari Eason last season struggled with injuries, But this season, he's been awesome, as again, his defense has been tremendous, and he's been averaging 11 points per game, 6 rebounds per game, and 2 steals per game on 47.5 shooting from the field in 23 minutes per game. Now, his three-point shot this season has been a little bit off, but I do think he can get up to like 35 to like 36% of, from three, which is something he's done before. But yeah, Tari Eason, he's also been great for the Rockets off the bench, and I think Amen Thompson and Tari Eason should both be considered for the all-defense teams this year. And then, along with that, you do have Fred VanVleet, and this season he's been terrible when it comes to shooting the ball, but he's still giving them 15 points per game. He's a really good playmaker, and he is a really good playmaker and defender, and he is a good veteran presence, on this team. Dylan Brooks, he's a really good 3-and-D wing. You got Jabari Smith, and Jabari Smith had a horrible start to the year, but he's been a lot better since then, and he's a really good defender, and offensively, he is serviceable and is a decent shooter. Now, I will say, I don't think he'll become some superstar or like all-star level player and live up to that top 3 draft status, but I do think Jabari Smith will become a pretty good player. Now, Houston also does have Jalen Green, and he's a pretty interesting player to say the least. Obviously, he had a lot of hype heading into the NBA and was a top 3 pick for the Rockets back in the 2021 NBA draft, and a lot of people hoped that he could develop into a superstar or like all NBA level player, and he has shown flashes of stardom throughout his career, but Jalen Green has had a lot of issues, whether that be his efficiency, his shot selection and IQ, his lack of playmaking, his lack of defense. Like, Jalen Green, just simply put, really hasn't developed into that star that Houston had hoped for, and he does lead the team in points per game by a little bit, but he still hasn't been very efficient. He still has been inconsistent as well, and along with that, he hasn't been that good of a playmaker or defender, and is kind of just a pure scorer who, again, isn't that efficient and struggles with consistency. And at this point, I highly doubt he's going to become a superstar or all-NBA level player or even an all-star, and I don't know if we're ever going to get that big breakout season that a lot of people have been, hoping for the past few years. And the Rockets, they did give him a sizable contract extension before the season started, which was pretty much just a projection contract, hoping that he could eventually break out. But thankfully, his contract is tradable. But again, Jalen Green, I don't see him becoming an all-star level guy, but I will say Jalen Green, he could be like a Malik Monk type player who's an elite sixth man and spark plug off the bench. I definitely could see him, becoming like that. Now, his future with this team, in my opinion, is pretty uncertain. Who knows if he will be with the Rockets long term? Obviously, they have a lot of assets, and next offseason, if a big star is on the trade market, they could, look to trade for that said big star. And Jalen Green, he could be a part of that trade package. Only time's going to tell, whether, he is eventually going to live up to the expectations he had heading into the league, and if he will remain with the Rockets long term. They also do have Reed Sheppard and Cam Whitmore as well, and they're two young guys who I think, and both of them, I think they do have solid potential. Neither of them have really gotten a lot of playing time this year, and Cam Whitmore didn't get that much playing time in his rookie season last year either. But in my opinion, if given the opportunity and if they do develop well, I think both of these guys could become something. Steven Adams and Jacques Landale are their backup bigs, but truthfully, they aren't very good, especially with the injury Steven Adams has dealt with. I mean, he used to be pretty good, but Steven Adams just isn't that great anymore, unfortunately. And yeah, as mentioned before, Ime Udoka, he's also a super good head coach. Now, the Rockets, they're also number 1 in rebounds per game, which really does help a lot, as they are number 2 in the league when it comes to second chance points. And what's crazy about that is that Alperen Sengun is the only guy who's averaging double-digit rebounds, and really the team as a whole just rebounds well. Now, even though the Rockets are great defensively, offensively they are kind of mid, as they are 16th in offensive net rating, and they are 14th in points per game. However, they're 26th in the league when it comes to team field goal percentage, and 28th in the NBA when it comes to team 3-point percentage. And they remind me a lot of the Magic last year, as they were a young team who made a surprise leap, and they mostly won because of an elite defense, and offensively, they weren't that good. Now, with all of that out of the way, as far as whether the Houston Rockets are a contender or not, I'm going to have to say no. Now, they are a very good team. Let's make that very clear. And I think they will be a top 5 to 6 seed in the West at the bare minimum, as, again, they have a very good defense. They got a really good head coach. They got a lot of good players on this team. I think they are fairly deep, and they do have, a legit they are led by a legit all-star level player in Alperen Sengun, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, they are a young team, and offensively, like I said before, they just aren't that good. And ultimately, I think this lack of experience and the deficiencies on offense will hold them back, and I think they're going to be like a first, maybe second round exit. But like I say, for all teams making this kind of leap, that's okay, because this is great progress right here, and the Rockets truthfully are exceeding expectations, as a lot of people really only expected them to be like a play-in contender, maybe a playoff team like I said before, but no one expected them to be this good. Their future is incredibly bright with Ime Udoka as their head coach and the kind of young talent they have, and along with that, they have a ton of assets to make a trade for Big Star, like I mentioned before, and when that time comes, they'll have plenty of young players and picks, to offer to that team, that's trading that star player. And if you are a Rockets fan, you have to be feeling very good about how this team has played so far in the 2024 to 25 season and the future of this team, because the future of this team, I'd say it's pretty bright. But that's pretty much all I got to say for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. It really does mean a lot to me. Again, like the video and subscribe, and check me out on social media. The links to my Twitter and Instagram are in the description below. But without further ado, I'm out, you guys.